The May 9th meeting of the Missouri City Planning and Zoning Commission 2012 is called to order. We have a quorum here tonight. All required notices were posted and everything is in order. Agenda item number 3, reading of the minutes. Do I hear a motion that we approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion about the minutes? Before we vote, I'd like to add that in my years of being on this Planning and Zoning Commission, we've never had a set of minutes that went 31 pages. But the manner in which all that was put together by the staff, by Jennifer's people over there, by Gary, by Nancy, it made it all worthwhile, and it thoroughly explained what we had done. And I'm sure, Nancy, you had a double of a time deciphering all that from our language, you know. But you did a great job.
Thank you.
And thank everybody for doing that. Okay, we've had a motion, a second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved as presented. Agenda item number 4, reports. 4A, Chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I only have one little comment to make. I want to thank the Commission for the manner in which that they have conducted their business here on this Commission here since the first of the year and prior to that and so forth. You all do a good job and you pay attention to what's taking place. And you come prepared, and that's the name of the game. From that, the city benefits. So thank you for doing that. The commissioners, anybody like to make a comment? Anyone? Okay, moving on to 5C, the staff reports. Director of Development Services, Gary.
I'll try to be brief because I heard somebody ask how quickly you could get out of here tonight. First, for those of you who were not in attendance, have not seen a report from the City Council meeting of Monday evening, the public hearing on the sign ordinance was held, but the ordinance has not been considered yet. Staff is still working to put it together to reflect this Commission's direction and so that it is understandable and usable. So we're still working on it, and we will continue to work till we get it right so we can take it to City Council. 2, on the minutes, it's mostly Nancy. She does all the heavy lifting on it. And number 3, you found a sheet at your place where the journal that you used to receive apparently succumbed to the digital age and could no longer compete in paper format. They have a digital version. Jennifer's recommendation will be to provide each of you with a subscription to it, and a few others of us with a subscription to it, so you can stay informed. I think you found it. I found the journal interesting and helpful, and I think it probably helped you as you considered the business that came before you.
Right.
I think that's all the announcements I have. If there are any others, I've forgotten them, and they must not be that important.
Well, also want to thank you for all the things that you do for us here. You make this job a lot easier.
Nancy gets the shirts. Nancy puts the tables, puts everything in order. I just show up. She prepares the agenda. She puts the packet together. I just show up.
Well, you just
Nancy,
keep on
Travis,
showing
and
up.
Jennifer do the work.
You just keep on showing up. Okay, moving on here. Public Works.
No report, sir.
No report. Thank you. Okay, agenda item number 6, public comment.
Excuse me, you skipped Jennifer, the planning representative.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jennifer?
I don't have anything. Gary covered it.
Okay, he took care of it all. All right, excuse me for overlooking you. I didn't mean to. All right, agenda item number 6, public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to step to the podium and address anything which is not on this agenda for tonight? please be our guest and do that. If you do make any comments, please try to keep it in the perspective of what's here in Missouri City and what we do also here in Fort Bend County. So if anybody would like to step to the podium, please be our guest. All right, seeing no one, moving on, agenda item number 7, the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay, I'd like to make one comment. Jennifer? Yes. 7C, there's an acreage figure in there that shows 0.772 and also 0.776. You'll be able to see it easy when you look at it. We really need to correct that and see which number is correct. Okay? All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, the consent agenda is approved as presented. Agenda item number 8, Sienna Village of Bees Creek. 8A, consider approval of a revised concept plan for Sienna Village of Bees Creek, sections 7, 10, 13, and 14, and 18.
This should be relatively quick. You've seen the concept before, and this is just a revised concept, and I'm actually placing up here section 10, and that's what's being added to all of the other sections that you've seen previously. So you are being asked to vote on the revised concept to include section 10, and then the preliminary for section 10. Are there any questions on it?
Anybody? Okay, do I hear a motion that we approve agenda item 8A?
So moved.
Second to that?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion on that? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, 8A is approved. 8B, consider approval of a preliminary plat for Sienna Village of Bees Creek, Section 10. And as I said, that is a preliminary plat.
Make the motion that we voted on.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second to it? All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on 8B? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? All right, 8B is also approved. 9A, a public hearing in consideration for a zoning map amendment. 9A, public hearing to receive comments for or against a request to amend Plan Development District Number 62, Ordinance O-11-02, to allow for deviations to the city zoning ordinance concerning wall and window sign regulations.
There you go.
Yes, this is a request to amend Plan Development District Number 62, one that has been before you all numerous times before. In this case, the Petco retail store has come before us to request deviations to wall signage regulations that currently pertain to the Plan Development District. They're actually located right here, not at the exact corner. There's a small lease space still in existence here, but they take over a good portion of this, as well as a small portion of the elbow there. At this time, they're basically requesting 3 different wall sign deviations. The first one is they are requesting to be allowed to use a panel essentially behind some of their signage, which is depicted here. You can see this blue background here around the grooming, as well as the Petco. One sign will actually be located facing Highway 6, well, one section of signs. It will be their Petco with the logo that they currently utilize,
Right.
as well as you'll see here, the small grooming sign. On the side that's actually facing Knight Road, it'll be this Petco sign here with the blue background. Staff is recommending that they be allowed to use the blue aluminum backer panel on the building in signage. The applicant's also proposing to have, as you can see, red lettering for their wall signage. Currently, the sign design program that's been utilized by the Fort Bend Town Center has been white lettering, so they would be asking for a deviation to what the rest of the center is utilizing at this point.
Right.
The third is that they are proposing to have wall signage that's larger in total area, so adding up all three signs than what they would be allowed to have now. Currently, they'd be allowed to have a maximum total of 126.49 square feet. They're requesting 330 in total area. And based on their distances from the roads, we, as staff, are recommending approval of that. The applicant's also proposing window signage that will cover 70.7% of the glass or window area of the tenant space, which is not depicted on these, but we do have what that looks like.
Travis, did anybody say anything to them as to why they wanted such a huge amount there?
That may be best answered by the applicants who are here tonight.
Huge amount of what?
Fairview.
Signage?
No, a huge
That's
amount of signage.
70.7%.
Yeah, signage.
That's, you talking about for the windows?
Yes.
Oh, we're gonna talk
Oh,
about that.
yeah,
See?
okay. I thought you were talking about the
So,
outside.
essentially, there are some portions of the window that will be
Disapprove
left
that.
open towards the top of the window. But from basically the ground to at least 65% of the window, that will be covered. So there would just be small areas at the top that are left open. The applicants are here tonight. If y'all have any questions, and on that last request, staff has recommended disapproval of that.
Okay, is the applicant here? Could you step to the podium and give your name, please?
Hello, good evening. My name is Joe Funderburg. I'm with Anchor Sign, representing Petco. And as indicated by staff, we are asking for the variance for a couple of different, or the change for a couple of different aspects of the signage. The reason for the larger channel letters, the larger name, is because the site is set back far from Highway 6, and giving the increased size, it provides better visibility when you're traveling along Highway 6. Obviously, that's highway speed. It's difficult to read the letters at their current height. The larger letters provide better visibility. The color change, of course, because currently the white letters against the white facade makes it very difficult to read the letters themselves. As you can see, and I can pass this board around, it shows the signs currently, and this is just basically at the driveway towards the backside of the parking lot. This is probably half the distance of Highway 6, so this gives you an idea. You can see how they're not visible at this distance. Certainly, they're not visible from Highway 6. Of course, it's just not safe to stop and stand and take a picture on Highway 6. So this will give you a good idea of what's there now and the issues that we do have with the visibility. Anybody else would like to take a look at that?
Travis has put some pictures on the screen that may
Not that exact
depict what you
picture.
can.
That's one that they've taken. We have some that are similar. We tried to incorporate more of the overall integrated business development to show in line what that would look like. It's a rather large development, though, so we really don't have a camera that can accurately take a picture of the entire center. We did try to capture them here, and this is basically from the out parcel, so I'm not even quite at Highway 6 in some of these photographs here. And I will zoom in so you can hopefully see a little bit better. They're actually located here. And let's see. So in relation to the Kroger's that's down there, they're all the way at the end. And even from one of the reserves out there, it's rather hard to see exactly what is on the building there as far as signage. Again, you can see Kroger's is even longer here, so that's not even the full extent of that development. Here's the best picture I could try to take, which was up on top of the overpass there, trying to be as safe as I could to take this. So you can see this is the entire development here. It's rather large, and even from the highway overpass, it's rather hard to see exactly what that is advertising.
You'll also notice in the photograph that in the Petco space, you can see the logo, which does have the color because it stands off against the light colored background. And at the other end of the shopping center where the Kroger is, obviously they use the blue letters, so you can see how visible those letters are. They stand off. There's some contrast against the light colored background. And that's why we're asking for the red letters, is to provide that contrast so that those letters are visible and legible.
Did you represent Petco when they first did their sign?
Yes, our company was involved in the sign process.
Did you discuss any deviation then? I don't recall.
We did not actually have a formal deviation to this level, but we worked with staff to try to come up with some solutions, and we've seen, based on the field results, that it just doesn't achieve what it needs to achieve to gain the visibility necessary.
Intuitively, did you think that was going to be the case when you put the sign up first?
We were concerned about that, very much so.
Did you express that to the city?
That was expressed, and we went through a couple of different options and tried to work out the details of considering Petco an anchor tenant based on the way that it's written. They're not currently considered an anchor tenant, although they are obviously. When we look at the center, it's Kroger and Petco, and those are the two big guys in there that draw the pedestrians and draws the public into the shopping center.
The window signage in comparison to the main ID sign, under the same rationale, what does the window signage give you from a distance? Well,
the window signage, the primary focus of that is it's blocking the back side of the finished walls where the shelving is, and it blocks the black that's there now. It also, it provides a little bit more contrast, and I mean, obviously, you're not going to really see the vinyl from a significant distance away. That more just provides a little better finish to the window rather than the black, the black vinyl or the blackout that's behind the shelving now. And it can be noted that the shelving goes about 65% of the way up the window, as mentioned by staff, but there's also some other windows along the front that would remain completely empty as they are now. So that kind of, when you look at it from the broad scale, it's not covering quite as much percentage as it may appear.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a picture of it.
Could we see the picture of the window signage again, please?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, put that back up.
Puppies and kittens.
Huh?
Puppies and kittens.
And grooming. There it is.
I've seen that at some of the other places too, so you're already putting that up. That already is being done at some of the other Petcos, I think.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I've seen that in other
Yeah.
areas as well.
I can't remember where I was, but I'm sure it was a Petco. So the windows you have now are already blocked for visibility due to that there's storage space against them.
Yes, sir.
So you utilize the existing space and negated the windows by needing to store up against them to be able to use it.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
That's correct.
So if you built the place from scratch, you more than likely wouldn't have ever paid for glass there, I would assume.
Right, if it was a,
Yeah, if it was a build-out.
right.
Petco
Certainly, I can't
probably
speak directly to the construction plans, but yeah, there's, the need for windows in that specific location is not necessary. But then again, as mentioned, the shelving does stop, 65% of the way of the window, so it still does provide some natural light and visibility into the space.
Obviously, you're trying to entice the customer towards the grooming, training, and so forth, right?
Right, well, that obviously is displayed, which provides some additional information as you know, the customer is approaching the store, they see some of the additional services that are offered. But based on that sizing, you're not really going to be able to read that from substantially far away. That's that's not targeted for.
No, but I think it lends to the situation that customers who do pull in there for Kroger's or other places are able to read the advertisement and catch on to what you're trying to say.
Yes,
right?
sir.
They don't have to read it from the highway because they know what Petco does. Most people know that by now.
Right.
They also know that by the sign, right? Your
Exactly.
sign is a key.
Right, and that's why we feel that it's so important to have that visibility from the highway, from Highway 6.
In other cities, do you get the signage that you want like that in the blue?
With usually the letter sets are large because they are large block letters, so this is on the smaller side. Usually it's a little bit more pronounced facade, so where the facade can accommodate. The goal is to, number one, of course, advertise the business so that the letters are legible at the appropriate distances, but also fit well within the facade and work well, and where we feel that the front elevation, if we could go back to that, the front elevation shows you know, the logo on top of the letters. It fits well with the architecture of the building. It kind of has the same triangular shape as the pitch of the roof. So we feel that this fits well with the building. The side elevation, which today doesn't really have much visibility, because you know, more for the future development and as the tollway extends and you know, as that's brought up to speed, then that's going to be more the predominant elevation, and that's actually the longer of the two. That part of the space they occupy substantially more. It's a unique situation because there's a little end cap, so to speak, that kind of cuts their corner. So
Can you go back to the other side? That signage right there, is that your letterhead signage for Petco?
it is. That's part of a.
I mean, if you wrote a letter to a customer or you did anything, you would not only put the dog and I think it's a dog and a cat.
Dog and a cat, yes, sir.
But you would put the word Petco underneath there, right?
Yes, sir.
That would be and then you might put the corporate name underneath there after that.
Right.
So that's really considered your logo, is that true?
Absolutely. That's the recognizable image.
Not just the dog and the cat?
Right. The name, the image, that's what's recognizable as a whole.
Okay.
I think from Highway 6, I'd love for you to have more visibility if it increases your ability to do business. The windows, I think, puts us in a precarious position because if Petco is known to have these windows and have these pictures, and it gives me a good feeling when I see the pictures of the dog. I'm a dog lover. But what if all major tenants want to do that? And what if every one of our retail centers use you as an example and say, we want to cover all of our windows and we want to have them for all the services that we provide, regardless of what those are? What do you think that would do to all of our retail centers if the majority of the windows are covered up by the services that that tenant provides?
Well, I think there's certainly different aspects, and I think every case would have to be treated individually. And I think that's why this system is in place, so that it gives you guys the opportunity to look at each individual situation and say, okay, this is justified, this makes sense in this application. We're not saying that, you know, when we drive around towns and there's businesses there out there that have probably, maybe they've done it by the code, maybe they haven't, have more window signage than you know, what we have currently, and more similar to what we're asking for. We don't think that it's justified for us to come in here and say we should have it, or they have it, so should we. And I don't think this would be setting a precedence for other businesses in the city to come in here and do the same. We're in a unique situation, and I think the burden of proof would be on them at that time to present their case in the same format to say, hey, this is our situation, this is why we feel that it's necessary.
But you had mentioned it really doesn't increase the visibility as much as it does, gives a better look from where the shelving is seen from the customer's point of view.
Right, it provides, it looks better than the black, than the, you know, the blackout. So it enhances the storefront. It has better, you know, appeal, as you mentioned. You walk up and it's nice to see the puppies and the kittens rather than the black.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that, John, that was what I was thinking, same thing along your lines, is that they've already got window covering, which means it's not opaque, right? Going back to some of our discussions. That's a window covering, but now we're going to where the window covering now is becoming a graphic or a sign. So the decision becomes are we okay with a not so nice looking blockout or window covering versus something that's a sign that may be better? I guess that's where I'm at.
What you've described in the pictures that I've seen, is well done. I think what we're here for is to protect those places that aren't well done.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so it's professional, it's clean, it's crisp, it's in all your other stores. Looks great. You've seen some of those windows around town that aren't done well and aren't done professionally, but it's the balancing act that staff has been discussing.
Sure.
And having us, and having been forced to listen to us discuss for a lot of hours. I'm as pro-business as anybody up here, but I also have to respect all the effort that staff has put into this in having a criteria that we can uniformly tell all of our citizens and all of our businesses that this makes sense for everybody. I like the fact that we can come up and discuss each case individually, but I think there needs to be some clarity, not some, hey, but look at.
Right.
Even though your standard I love, hey, set the standard real high. Just don't cover the whole window.
Well, one thing to take into consideration is that if you could go back to the window graphics.
Problem is they're already covered.
Although
That's what they're asking now.
when you look at the percentage of the window covered, yes, there's a film there, just as there is now, where there's black. Now there is tan or brown or actual images, or, you know, if you take into account the actual square footage or the surface area of the window that's covered by the words training or grooming, or even really a picture of a cat or a dog, it's going to be under that allowed limit. It's where the other colors are, and they're, you know, they're neutral colors, so it's really nothing for that area. Is really non-advertisement. It's just color. It's a solid color. So really, your advertising area, as it's considered, is much smaller. Your graphics area is well under that amount. So it's one angle to look at. I know that it doesn't meet the letter of the law, so to speak, when we look at it that way, but it does, we feel, meet the intent of the rule. And as you were mentioning, it meets the intention of regulating what's shown. You know, and I think it would be very rare that any business would put up blank colors on their, you know, blank solid colors as window vinyl. So this is a unique situation where, again, I think it may not meet the letter of the law, but it does meet the intent.
You know, with your business, the way it is, your business comes from the name Petco and that logo up there. You don't necessarily have to have a lot of covering and signage and so forth like that, because people are going to come in because of who you are, a national firm.
Right.
And that's where you're going to get your business from. And in line with what my commissioner down here said, Commissioner, we're to the point where that we've got to consider the other areas as well. And as Commissioner O'Malley indicated, what do we do if somebody else wants to do this? You know, how do we handle that? And we would have to handle it. But I think we've got to look at this. But again, I think your sign, your logo out there, and a few other changes in there should be more than adequate as far as bringing business into y'all. Because people are going to come based on who you are.
Yes, sir.
I have a question for you. I have two questions. The current, I just can't remember. I'm looking at so many Petcos right now in my brain. The one that's there now, do you already have the window signage?
Window signage was put up originally, but has since been taken down.
Taken down, okay.
I believe I have some.
Yeah, it's been taken down.
I couldn't remember.
I went out there and
Yeah,
looked at it
here's,
today.
Okay,
I want to see that too.
okay, thank you.
Should I put them on the
Yeah,
overhead projector?
we can put them up
You want
on
to
here.
put them
Yeah.
over there?
Yeah.
That way
Okay.
the rest of the board can see.
And then my second question, I'll wait till you get back there.
But in this picture, you can see is the blackout that goes about 3/4 of the way up the lower window. What you can't see here is the upper windows, which are hidden right now by the canopy. But as you take a step back a little further, it actually ends up being about 65% of the window height.
Do you, now my second question is, do you know if Petco has more than one merchandising scheme? So if you're in a situation like this, like you say now, you currently have your shelving, I'm assuming, against these windows. Is there a secondary merchandising scheme so that you can change the positioning of the shelving, if that is really and truly your intent to, you know, so that people can't see it? Is there such a thing that exists?
Well, when this space was designed, and the way that the square footage laid out, and the way that the aisles needed to be created, and where each different aspect of the business needed to be located, it wasn't feasible to do anything along those lines.
Okay.
So, was that it?
Yeah.
So what we're saying is that the windows are going to be blocked,
Yes, sir.
and blocked with what color?
Currently, it's a blackout.
It's like a
Blackout.
Yes, sir. That's the back side. What you're seeing is the back side of the shelving.
Shelving.
Right, and
You
it's
put up-
basically hard finished shelving. It's not, you know, shelves that you can, you know, that are just racks that move around. It's more permanent than that.
That's,
Do you have, do you have Petcos in other cities in Houston, Sugar Land? Where do you have them?
Yes, sir. There are some
You have
surrounding. Yes, sir.
How do you have the windows in these cities?
Actually, I'll defer to you, John.
I'm John Sutton, I'm a project manager for Petco.
Our prototype typically has just a few windows in the front elevation only. To answer her question is, no, there's not.
No,
A secondary
secondary.
scheme, no. And whenever we have a project like this that has windows on more than 50 or 60% of the space, we block them out. And when we do, we put graphics up there whenever we can. So I can't say specifically in the area if we've got stores that have the graphics. I can't tell you to go to, Sugarland, for example. I don't know if they've got them or not.
You don't know if Sugarland has them or not?
No.
Okay.
Do they? No. I really don't remember.
No,
The Sugarland has no windows or no graphics?
they have windows and no graphics.
Right. Hi, my name is Dee Mayo. I'm district manager here in Houston. Our Sugarland store, the layout is it's an older building, and it's been there quite some time, and it's glass all the way across the front. But our layouts, with the way the customer checks out of the store, the way they come out of the building, it doesn't lend itself to putting graphics on, because you can see, the store is in the back. This particular store, the way the layout works is by department, trying to do it by department, and in most retail stores you see how they got the outer walls that go around, and that's why it created this with this glass situation on the layout of this building the way it is. We do have some stores locally though that do have some graphics up in the front, yeah, and there's a couple of those that have, and that's our newer prototypes as we come in, and we get a little bit different shaped building in most of the times because it's mostly in the end of a center the correct way. It's just that going into this building, the shape of this building, and trying to accommodate it, it just gave us some challenges with the graphics.
Where do you have, you said around this area, can you define one?
Yeah, Woodlands is one that has some graphics up on the front of it.
Also, your Rosenberg store is an end cap, but only an entrance in the front. The side, because it faces a high-speed railroad track, is solid brick. If this were to be redesigned, I suspect there would be no windows along that side of the wall, but when Newquest designed it, not knowing who would be in it, their design would have been more flexible. But they do have graphics utilized on some of the windows in the front, but not on all of them. I think they primarily use them on the windows that are directly ahead of the cash register or the checkout. But there aren't that many windows in the front. It's more like the front that you would see on this store, not the side. I believe the issue here is the side, and the point was those are semi-permanent shelving units.
Right.
That doesn't change it.
Correct.
All you're doing is just doing graphics.
Yes, we occasionally shop there.
Yeah, so do I. Is there a possibility of maybe making them smaller,
Making
the graphic signs?
Well, there's something that we could certainly go back and look at different designs. The shelves are permanent basically, so where
And I
we
can
do
see
make
them now. Yeah, where it cuts off, okay.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, you would want to bring your signage from the bottom, move your finger all the way up to the top.
right, just where the black is now is the only place that that the covering would go.
It doesn't look like that. Okay. I don't have anything else.
Travis, what's the new percentage on the proposed
The
ordinance?
proposed.
The new percentage is 50%,
We've decided.
and anything over that would count towards wall signage, correct?
It's 25%.
I'm sorry,
Anything
25,
over would
anything
count.
over is, yeah.
If it's over 25%, it would then count toward total wall signage. And if you have an electronic marquee, not marquee, but monument sign, changeable sign, then it goes down to 15%.
Yeah, that's right.
And in this case,
This is still an unusual situation, although staff, based on our ordinances, even the proposed new ordinance, would be reluctant and obviously hesitant and won't recommend approval of that much graphics, especially after what we've heard from our city council and the issues that this commission has worked through before. I see circumstances that make this relatively unique. These aren't wire racks that are just thrown up in front of a convenience store. These are permanent shelves. We're not going to see through those windows.
Right.
No matter what we do.
Yeah. That's what I'm.
And I suspect if Petco and Newquest had an opportunity, that would be brick, and we wouldn't be talking about this. But that would be a very expensive fix, and we're not asking for that.
I make a motion that you put brick up.
Well,
I'm joking. Don't put that in the minutes.
Can I ask a question with regards to the administrative issue of the PD? Since it is a PD, the whole development's a PD, right?
Correct.
And so now this will be an amendment to the PD, but is it, and I just want to make sure, it's tied only to
Only
this
to
space?
Yes.
And for Petco?
It's tied specifically to Petco.
Yeah.
So if they move out and somebody else moves in,
Right, then
they would have to default back
have
to
to
the
go
current
back
standards.
through and, okay.
Those shelves would go away then.
Right, that's what I want to make sure is that,
The,
so as far as reuse and sustainability, don't you love that buzzword,
but
you know, this is just for Petco alone. So
a little more detail, and Travis and Jennifer, correct me where I'm wrong, which I can be wrong quite often. We're going to be approving specific graphics,
That's
The
the other thing
windows
too. If
are
we
not-
were, well,
changeable graphics.
it depends on how the ordinance is actually drafted. If we add the way that, if we add this specific drawing to the plan development district, then yes, this would be the window signage they would be required to have. If we just talk about percentage numbers in that section of the ordinance without graphics or actually showing, hey, it's going to look exactly like this, then they could have some flexibility to change out those graphics over time as warranted, basically.
well, that's a good question then for this PD for them. Is there any time in the future that they're going to want to change the window vinyl, and does this become, just for this PD, does this lock them in for the next 30 years?
At this
Perhaps,
point,
But I have to look at that Sheltie or whatever it is over there. or
Would the PD be amended to say that they may use graphics akin to this only to the extent of the shelving, that is,
level, yeah.
permanently
Yeah.
affixed behind the windows, or
Right.
something along that line?
Because I would imagine.
keeping in
eventually
mind
you
that they
want
could
to-
change the
7
shelving
years.
at some point and raise the height of those.
7 years I've been
So-
with Petco, we've changed window graphic designs about 4 times.
Yeah,
That's going to happen.
yeah, so I mean, we'd like to make sure they're not tied to that.
Yeah.
Sure, and the way that we would write it would be to just actually speak to the percentage being covered. We wouldn't want to actually tie it to specific graphics like this.
Yeah.
'Cause they may
We
not
would
do
want to
that,
give them
no.
some
We'd have to-
flexibility in that. Because the real issue is not so much what is on the graphic, but how much is being covered. It's not so much the content of the message of the sign so much as the size of the sign and the aesthetic of it.
Well, guys.
Any other questions from the commissioners at all?
It's a public hearing.
Yes. All right. Thank you, sir. Both of y'all. As this is a public hearing, anybody in the audience that would like to step to the podium and address it? It doesn't look like that. Is there a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second to it? Second. All right, it's been moved and seconded that we close public hearing. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, the public hearing is closed.
I'd like to make a motion.
Make your motion.
Before you make a motion, can I ask a question?
Sure.
If it was at a percentage that was 35%, and it's a picture of a dog, would that get your positive recommendation? Or would you just go purely on, it's over the 25%? Or that it has grooming, the word grooming on it?
I would actually have to consult with all of the planning staff to see what the consensus on that would be. Some of us are of varied opinions on things, but we would come to a consensus on that. It's hard for me to say whether we would recommend that or not.
Do I ask the counselor or is... or former?
Well, I think based on the conversations that we had, You know, I think the commission's desire and council's desire was to limit, you know, the amount of whether it's graphics, whether it's instructions, whatever. You know, and just remind the commission of some of the pictures that we saw of childcare and some of the other businesses that have the same concept, some for safety, some for, you know, to cover, you know, various aspects of the business. So I think our recommendation, whether it was 35%, would still exceed what we discussed, because just like Gary talked about, we need to have that threshold as a determinant. 35% is not much more above 25%, but we would still look at it in terms of the conversations that we had. So I would say our threshold right now is still the 25%. With provided, you know, given the flexibility, if it was 35%, then we would look at it in terms of all of the other signage used on the site. So it may not be a, you know, recommendation to disapprove the 35%, but maybe a reduction on the amount of wall signs, or a reduction on the amount of changeable message signs. We're looking at the entire sign package as a whole.
Well, considering that I think everybody looks at what they're asking from Highway 6 makes sense, because you can't see it when you look at the picture. If they were at 25% with the graphics, even though they haven't changed it in years, would you penalize them on the size of their sign that is obvious that they need to increase and change the graphics and the color and all that? But as it's written, is it automatic? Well, if you're going to go over 25%, then you have to, there's a give and take there.
It's a give and take.
No matter what.
Well,
Even under a PD?
No,
No,
not under a
Oh,
PD.
okay,
No,
yeah,
you have the
because
option to,
if we're talking about a PD, you can have whatever.
Right,
you want.
and the purpose of the PD is, you know, to provide for unique situations
Absolutely.
and circumstances. But keeping in mind, just like the conversation we're talking about the city as a whole, it's that balance still between other businesses. And considering that Petco is not the single business in this multi-tenant shopping center. So if a smaller business in that same shopping center had the same layout based on, you know, the number of windows that they might have,
That's
or
good.
based on their store layout,
I don't have a problem with that
would
either.
they be permitted to be able to do the same type of thing? If they didn't have the name Petco, if they didn't have the name Kroger, would they be able to do the same type of thing? And so I think the new regulations try to provide that balance, allowing them to go over that 25%, but if 25% is exceeded, then trying to reduce it in some other areas. So it's not an oversaturation of signs.
So I find it a little ironic that the first test that we have is a picture of a lovely dog.
Well, and the issue that we would run into as well, if this wasn't a PD, they're requesting more than the maximum signage they could have. So that kind of factors into it as well. There wouldn't be much give or take here because they're already requesting more than what would previously be allowed. So it's not like we could say, okay, we'll take that extra and apply it to your, you know, channel letter wall signs up there. We can't. They've already exceeded what those are.
Yeah.
Well, the main thing here is the 70 percentile is just too great.
Can I make my motion?
The what did you say?
The 70 percentile is too great.
It's just too much.
Unless we address it as a PD.
Well, that's what,
Right.
Yeah,
They're
but you can address it as a PD, but you just don't allow the 70%.
let me make my motion and then we can discuss it.
Make your motion.
And then if we don't get a second, then we'll come back and hammer it out.
Come back
I think
another
I
day.
will, yeah. I do make a motion that we forward it on to council with a positive recommendation. However, not at the 70% as you guys have recommended, but I like the situation. It's unique, and I believe that they should be given some percentage. 70 may be a little too much because then it kind of leans towards advertising to me a little bit. However, the situation is very unique. We will never see through those windows because there is shelving there.
That's right.
The purpose of a PD is so that they can ask for variations. So I like that idea. And the signs are very clean and they're attractive. I like that as well. So for that reason now, I know I'm talking a whole lot inside of my motion.
How much
Now,
percentage?
How much percentage is probably
That's the question
where
I
we
got.
need to, where we need to get. 25% is going to be too low, 70 is too high. So we just need a number, I think. But that's my motion.
Okay, and.
You think
but-
half, 35%?
But the problem is, your motion is saying it's not this big, but it's gonna be this big, and we don't know what big it is.
Well, that's
So-
okay. Can we
so-
put the picture back up and then
So
we'll figure
why,
out?
Which
do we
one?
want
The one with the window
I'm
signs?
just asking,
Yes.
you can do it any way you want.
The
But don't we
windows.
want to get a particular figure?
Yeah, we're going to get it right now, so I can
Okay.
clean up my motion. Got to get it cleaned up.
I just want to make
Get you a
sure.
mop, I think you started it.
I need a mop.
Yeah, we might.
That's okay.
Because you're going to get us into percentages.
No, it's not that one,
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought
Travis.
you were looking
The
for
one with just the glass windows.
Oh, I see. I'm
Blackout on
sorry.
it?
With the
Here you go.
blackout,
I
because we can
apologize.
kind of determine from there.
How much is the
Needed if you
blackout
could split the
taking?
screen.
See, you can see how the top
Yeah.
portion of it, that's the see-through part. So I'm thinking, what if just the middle section?
Well, wasn't he saying all he's going to do is bring it up? I mean, right now, you've already got it blacked out, so if he brings it up to the point of where it's blacked out, that's the 70%.
That's the 70,
That's the
and that's too
70.
much.
Well,
That
it's
is-
based on what we did was we went through to do our calculations. And of course I've
Build it-
closed it
did you
now. We
build a
went through the
spreadsheet to
elevation
model all that
drawings.
yet?
Well, we went through the elevation drawings, which are scaled, measured all the windows and all the surface area that encompasses, and then went based on the measurements that they had given us here to determine how much is actually there. And that's how we arrived at the 70,
That's
70.7%.
71, actually.
Okay, 40,
So
looks good to me.
the exhibit he has for the vinyl covering,
What are you saying?
Yeah, okay.
is that basically your shop drawing, your architectural rendering of
Those are.
what you're going to put up?
They are the graphics.
Yeah.
However, they're not applied to this specific window, so it's not shown on the elevation, which I think maybe was causing some of the misunderstanding about the secondary set of windows. If we could look at the.
Sure, right, here you go. Actually, I will have to reopen that. Essentially, it's very similar to what the AT&T store there at SDI's property was looking
Probably
at.
about 40%.
Oh, here you go.
40% would be all right.
So that's what the graphics looked like originally, prior to being brought down. And as you can see, where the blackout vinyl is, or where the graphics are, comes up to this part. That's basically, when you look at it, it's about 50-50 because the graphics stop here. So that's about 50-50. But there is that awning that cuts across the middle, so when you square off the square footage of the actual windows, it's not as much because of that awning that does go across the middle.
So let's back up real quick. Maybe I just realized something. They had the graphics up already, and then because they didn't meet the ordinance, you had them take them down?
They ran into a code enforcement issue and were notified that they were not in compliance with the ordinance.
So we took down the graphics, and now we have
The
an opaque
blackout.
window covering anyway. But since it's not considered a sign, it's a wall covering.
Just a blank space, yeah. I mean, it's really not that, it's
Well,
shelf.
you're getting this. I know. It's coming.
There's nothing on it, really. I mean, it's just blank.
I mean, I'm like you, it needs to be a wall, but I mean, that guy,
I made that motion, y'all didn't
well,
second
but
it.
it's not his fault, that's the developers.
And as you can see, in this area, there's no graphics, so a lot of
Right.
this window covering, I mean, that's no different than it being a tan wall. If it was brick or, if it was that same color brick. It's
I
the
mean,
same
we
thing.
can have a vinyl graphic of your wall if you want it.
Yeah.
Sorry. You can do anything nowadays, right?
Actually, in reality,
Throw that one out, should I?
is that what you want to do right there?
They want to put back up what you had.
No, that's what I'm asking. Is that what you
Basically.
want to do right there?
Yes, sir, basically.
Okay. Now, when you do that, you go from the black to a different color.
Correct.
Right, okay. And we're considering that going to that different color is signage. Is that what we're saying?
It's window signage.
Yeah. When in fact, in my viewpoint, the dog is the signage. Period. I mean, they could put that color on the back of that shelving right now.
Well, you've actually got a window blackout behind the shelving, don't you?
You see
I mean,
what I'm
on the
saying?
back
I
of the
mean, it's
window.
just.
Man,
Is it-
y'all
they
not
can-
gonna,
Well,
y'all not
inside
gonna
of
give
the
me the
glass.
grief.
But one thing, if I can interject on that
On the back of the shelving.
One thing to keep in mind, because just like we, in the proposed ordinance, any applied background that's not customarily part of the architecture of the building or the window is considered signage. So even that blue background on the wall signs, that is not part of the actual letters, is still part of the signage.
But we had that discussion.
Right.
With regards to window coverings and other things, i.e., if I put a dentist office or a doctor's office and it has windows, but I'm gonna put in there, and I'm a business, I'm not gonna leave my windows in my areas where I have people standing there with,
Patience, right.
patients uncovered. So
Right.
that get resolved or not?
The resolving was the 25%, or anything over goes into the walls. Because remember, and one thing I want to point your attention to, remember when we talked about the child care on
Yes.
Cartwright, and their windows completely covered in art. And that was part of the conversation. And the result of that conversation was that wasn't desired. And so the result of that was the recommendation to continue with the 25% of the window area, not a single window pane
Right.
or a single window frame, but 25% of the window area, similar to how AT&T on Highway 6 that Travis was mentioning, where they have a whole side that's covered in signage in their windows. But they also have a side that's completely clear, that has no signage whatsoever. So keeping in that tradition, still allowing for the use of the window signs, but not an oversaturation of the window signs.
But this doesn't look like NASCAR. Okay, so, I mean, obviously, what we're at in a PD now is that we're down to an aesthetic issue. So if we get away, nothing against you on your motion, but if we get away from the percentage situation, I mean, we're looking at an architectural aesthetic here.
But
You
it's
gotta
still
look
an
at it.
ordinance.
It's not just a dog.
Yeah.
Right.
The section next to that is not just a picture. It describes, I mean, I can't read, I'm
Right.
blind, but it describes
Right, some of that, yeah.
foundation
has-
work and other, I mean,
Yeah,
and that's where it comes to the debate.
Yeah, because they're gonna.
But I will say this,
change
is,
'em.
since this is an issue now, and I know everybody wants to go home, but if this is gonna come up, what is the difference between hand-painted windows and a digitized neutral color that's in whole? And I don't think laws should be written to win one case.
right.
And the last time we were in this meeting talking to some council members, it's as if we were trying to win one or two cases and win that debate.
I agree.
And then we create this monster of a ordinance,
Enforcement issue.
just so we can win that one debate. I don't think that's good law.
Yeah,
I don't think that's good
Right.
governing. And it's not a criticism as much as we need this input from guys that do this for a living all day long in communities all over the country. Yes, that looks attractive. The dog does. 2 signs next to it,
Yeah, that's not attractive.
not as much. But the
Right.
dog, I mean, it's a big dog. But the neutral tone, I agree with. It
Yeah.
matches. You guys know what you're doing. How do we write an ordinance that says a digitized neutral color applicable to the architecture and the color palette could be an exception? Hand-painted graphics that look like I did it, that should be in the ordinance, where it needs to be professionally digitized thing. And I know I'm challenging the lawyer in the house, but I think that's good governing.
But wait a minute. Let me go back to this ordinance thing. And yeah, I don't think you disturbed it at all. The point of me making the ordinance is that we are never going to see through those windows at all. When we spoke with council and the mayor on that evening, specifically their comments were, if someone was going by there and they could, somebody's doing something to little kids, we cannot see them. Or if someone's being held up at gunpoint in a store with the stuff up, we cannot see them. But the difference here is that we can't see it anyway because they have shelves up.
Right.
That's why I'm saying,
It
I
isn't
think
gonna
we
change.
should. That's nothing, that part does not change it at all. But for speaking of it from a matter of safety, then, that's a different thing. It's attractive. I'm just saying, let's find somewhere in the middle. I'm with it. 70% is just a little too much.
Well, and if we actually calculate the two signs, as you mentioned, are unattractive or considered signs, if we actually calculated that square footage, the square footage of the dog, those type things, we're going to be at or under that 25% of the whole.
You're saying just the dog?
And the dog, the small graphics, 2 bays over, those type images, those that are actual images, the wording. If we take all of that, that's the actual.
That portion, just pull that out and don't put the.
And calculate it by itself, it's going to be under 25%.
So are we calculating the color too?
Yes.
Ah.
Yeah, sure, they just took it as a window covering as a sign. That's what I was asking.
Okay.
Just the graphics is, we are okay.
It's the entire window vinyl
Sure.
panel that we're looking at.
Sure.
So the whole
And
vinyl-
obviously,
yeah.
they want to have that color to blend in with the dog.
Right.
In the show. So we're saying, okay, but gosh almighty, that's part of your graphics. In essence, it really is, but I agree with John. This is a case where it's never gonna, if you don't do anything, it's gonna be black.
Yeah, it's not gonna look good.
Period. If you just don't do anything, then it's just gonna be black. If you do something that gets somewhat tasteful, as it is here, and you try to work within the framework of that one there, not this one over here or that one or all these things, because we have to take these things individually, and we do. We try to take them individually.
What do you want to do then?
Then what I'm saying is that we're trying to cut something down that I'm wondering if we really need to cut it down.
Are you saying leave it at the 70
I believe it's
percentile?
70, because what's happening is you're not creating signage for 70% in this particular instance. You're creating, if you just took the dog and the words and so forth, and you just took those and mapped them out and said, what's that percentage now? Don't take the color, because the color is just something they put in there that makes it.
But Bill, if you have that rationale,
Yeah.
the two signs in the middle, if we go legalistic and go, well, technically, only the lettering is signage. The backdrop isn't. I don't want to have the legalese argument. The rationale of, well, it's only the dog part should be considered part of the signage. Well, you block the whole window. And I don't want to walk around saying, well, that's a neutral color and that's actually a photo of what you do for a living that you're trying to sell to folks. That's going to be tough. In this particular case, the dog's attractive. The two signs next to it, what if you had them all the way down where you had each one of your foundations listed? Not talking about Petco, but Kroger. And they could say, well, it's only the lettering part. So measure each letter and not the fact that it's, that there's a backdrop. I mean, that's where it just gets, where my head's going to explode. In this particular case, I think it makes sense to cover up the window. Legal argument is a black film is a color. It's black. So is that a sign?
That's what I was gonna say. If they cover it up with the black that they have, now you
Wall
can
covering or window
say,
covering.
that's signage.
We're back to the same issue we brought up in the workshop.
I know what the regulation says. I don't have a problem voting for
Don't think so either.
This particular case in a PD that's been established in other communities, that is attractive as long as it doesn't have something that you have to stop and read. The two signs in the middle, you have to stop and read to get the whole picture. The dog, I get it. Good looking dog. The sign, I don't want that at every window and door. As a community, I don't think we're doing our job if every single home storefront can have signs like that. So if...
What percentage?
Well, in this particular case, if these guys are pros at it, I think that's the case.
70%.
But how do you quantify it? How do you say, but have the picture of the dog, have the letter that says grooming. That all makes sense. It covers up an ugly window.
What, the problem you have is that we're trying to get away with saying, okay, you can have the dog, so we'll put it in the ordinance. You can have a dog, okay? And you can have a little wording in here and everything. Now we've really made that specific for that location. Is that what we want to do?
No.
Is just specifically just say, see the
PD.
picture? That's what it'll
But
be.
it's a PD and it's tied to Petco.
Just Petco.
Yeah, that point I get.
How many windows are we talking about? Just the ones that we saw?
1, 2,
Oh, it's
3,
the whole
4.
side of that building.
The side of the
If
building.
you look at
They're doing one side and the other side, and then they've got the entrance.
side,
What about a possibility of saying 70% on the Highway 6 side, but 0% on the Knights Road side?
I don't know what?
Isn't this the Knights Road side that?
I'm sorry, I apologize. This here would be the Knight Road side that we're looking at currently.
If you were to just pick a set percentage without designating where that percentage will be located, not that I think Petco would do this, but one never knows what will happen in a couple of years, is they could reduce, give us black film here and put the color and the graphics by their front door. Just to play devil's advocate with you.
Yeah.
I think the unique situation are the racks that have been built in place that obstruct the view. And what I think the commission is talking about doing is camouflaging or hiding that condition.
So when they asked you to put graphics and work up the plan, did they tell you on Knights Road?
Well,
Or Highway 6 and Knights Road?
Yes, the idea is wherever there is the shelving. So the only place there would be graphic in this application would be where where the glass is backed with the shelving. Just a point of note in this picture, the far right, directly above the date, is not within their space. That's actually another tenant, and then the opposite, all the way on the other end, is another tenant. So it's just kind of that middle section. But again, the main point of this is to have this covering instead of solid black behind the shelving. So.
And you have shelving on Highway 6 and on Knights Road.
There is shelving.
Knights Road.
No, I don't believe so. No, it's affixed to
Yeah, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see
picture of the
that
front,
dog.
yes.
That's just too many dogs. That to me is too much.
Yeah, if you look, and unfortunately there were some vehicles in the way, there's 2 windows here that are blocked by shelves, and then there's 2 windows, I believe it's these 2, and those are just roll-up blinds. So there's, because obviously when the sun comes in, you got to kind of block that out, and then they raise them as the sun, so you're not blinding your customer.
So essentially, you want to put a graphic in every window there.
Only where there's shelving. So there's no shelving here. So there would be
Nothing
no
there.
There's no shelving. I believe it's these 2 right here. There's no shelving. So it would be as it is today, wide open. So it would only be behind shelving.
And on the side of the Knights.
On both sides, behind shelving. Wherever there's shelving now, and pretty much all of these pictures where there's blackout right now, that's where we would ask for the treatment.
And you want the great big giant red sign and the puppy dog and the cat, red and blue, right?
The wall signs, yes, ma'am, because obviously that's advertising to Highway 6. I think that's,
That's attractive looking.
right, and it's,
I don't
it's
have a
two
problem
kind of
with that.
separate hardships, I guess you could say.
Attractive looking. But
Are
now
you
the whole
asking for
front
any
of
vehicle
your,
signs? Hot topic.
You want to get a body out there too, while you're at it?
Did you want to revise your motion?
No.
Try, John.
No, I
Okay,
don't.
so
Tell me what
you
your motion
wanted a
is.
percentage. Is it as written, allow this?
I want to give him some signage. I do.
But you want it between this and that.
Look, I don't want to pull up to Petco and see what you like that, but my taste is different. And you're right, we are at an architectural
Yeah, I mean,
control
that's-
impasse.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So I withdraw my motion. Let me hear y'all's motion, and I'll vote accordingly. But 70% for me.
Well,
Because I just don't get it.
I don't particularly
It's too
like the
much.
70% either.
It's too much.
Maybe a 40%,
I don't wanna look at all
40%
that.
figure would be better.
As it
But I went
stands
out-
now, staff is recommending 0. So you guys are saying,
Well, no,
Oh,
we would
sorry.
just be
25.
defaulting to the current standards of 25%.
oh, 25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But 25 isn't enough.
Well, even though it's a PD, if we go 70 percentile on that, is that going to give us a problem somewhere down the road? Maybe it will. Disregard the fact that it's a PD.
Well, I don't know how you can disregard the fact that it's a PD. 'cause
No,
that's
what I'm saying to you is 70 percentile, period. To me
If you had
is,
in the PD,
huh?
if you had in the PD for this particular case, Petco, in lieu of black film, blocking shelving, they can put the basic graphics with animals.
Yeah, you just want to get rid of the,
Yeah, but you
This,
can't, do-
this PD.
The
And if
pure
somebody came in
signage.
and said they want 70% signage, I'm gonna say, well, let me see the pictures of your animals.
Dogs.
well, actually, it's tied to Petco, so if Petco leaves, if I clarified that correctly, then that all goes away.
That's correct.
Oh,
That would,
Would,
I
but if
felt
somebody
better
wanted to
about
keep
that.
it, I would say, you
Yeah,
can have the pictures of your dog.
you just don't like the parts with the lettering and the.
Well, I think that's a sign.
Well, I think you just, John, did you withdraw your motion?
Make your computer cancel.
Make my motion
What's that?
cancel.
Oh,
What's that?
just trying to re-sign onto the computer. And it took me to the, I guess,
With
sections
your
that need
motion
additional
to
help. I'm not sure.
Just the blank,
Nobody watches this anyway, it's.
and leave it at
in
that.
lieu of the black film, but
Put the animal, and let them put
that.
their, I don't know if you say animals or graphics or words or what.
established graphics for services rendered, not including the wording of their.
Get it?
Services.
Yeah.
Products
Did you
or
get that
services.
motion?
Okay,
No word.
John, I think,
I was making up as I went.
I think you got it. I think you got it. And in lieu of sitting here and arguing with what we think it ought to be, what it should be, or anything, let's get it to the point of, number one, let's try to, it's gonna be black no matter what you did, I mean, if you don't do anything. So let's let, my opinion is, let's let them go ahead and do it with the signage that they wanna do it with, and however we formulate that to say, okay, only where you obstruct the window with your shelving, something of that nature.
With the goal being the covering of the shelving that is right now being covered by black film. And instead of advertising the foundations or whatever those two signs in the middle are, it can be the simple, neutral graphics,
let me ask you something.
the animals.
Is this going to
Specifically-
remain here?
Well, I mean, I don't see a big issue with saying
Okay,
grooming,
that's
but
going to remain there.
I think
So Planet Petco, it's all natural, think adoption.
This is the front of that area out there right now.
Yeah, that's
That's what I saw today when I
signage
went out
that
there.
doesn't, their goal was to cover up the shelving. We'll cover up the shelving with
That's
the
where
fence, and I
the-
think everybody does a great job.
Point of clarification, we cannot regulate the content of the sign.
Well, we're not, we're
Only-
basically telling you we're changing it
From
from,
this here,
it's a PD, so
Roll it
he's
up.
basically making an architectural
And then
feature as
this is
opposed
where
to getting rid of the signs.
But I think you're citing free speech, right?
Yeah, I would defer to our legal counsel, but
There's
yes,
the
it looks
black-
like that is what she is
I
suggesting.
figured that. You want to come to the podium?
You would be much better at explaining.
So is free speech a puppy
You
or a kitten?
mentioned specifically what they would include. I think we're just trying to limit the size of whatever message, whatever sign they're trying to include. So just to clarify that, we're not trying to, or we wouldn't be doing that in this situation.
Okay.
I was trying to.
Well, what we're still discussing, though, is the definition of a sign or a wall covering, or an architectural feature. We're still back to that.
Okay,
He's got his motion.
yeah, you got a motion, I'm gonna second it.
In lieu of black.
Because I think we're on the right track, I'm just not sure
to
we
cover
got
the
it.
shelving.
Right, just to cover the area that will be, or it is currently encompassed by shelving.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
got it.
Only.
And it would be to approve the rest of staff's comments?
Well,
Yes.
in
In
addition,
addition to
With
this?
the, yes,
Okay.
the other ones that you recommended,
Okay, got it.
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure. Okay.
is this allowing them to put signage in the window?
Yes.
I just want to make sure, because we didn't talk, we just said cover the area.
with the graphics already established within Petco. I mean, so.
Okay, okay.
Which is essentially
but I
what,
can't limit them, but
which
I don't know, I
is,
think they're gonna-
it's essentially what they're showing here in their.
What does
actual
that do, Lawyer?
plan, of course, it's not right there now.
Yeah, in their architectural rendering or whatever. for the-
Essentially, what you would be granting is this area, which is what they
Yeah.
requested.
Yeah.
Because that's where they're showing that is essentially, there's a few where it goes all the way to the top, but for the most part, you're looking at just where the shelving is at.
Just where the shelving is.
Yes.
That's what I-
Basically, these shorter ones is how we have seen the shelving, and then this goes up slightly higher. I can't guarantee that there's a shelf behind that one that goes all the way to the top of the window. I'd have to investigate that.
For them to show.
I still say no. But we've got the motion.
I'm sorry.
Is there a
Motion.
second?
Made.
Read the motion. Can you read the motion?
Can you?
Can't see you guys, okay.
Yeah, agree with staff's comments, only in the area of the shelving and the graphics that are already established.
I think we need a clarification, if I judge the anxiety correctly.
Yes, the area, as mentioned, there is one, and I believe I showed you that on the thing that goes all the way to the top. There's a manager's office back there, so that's actually, not only is it a permanent shelving, but that's a physical wall that's there on.
Point of
Then probably we
clarifying,
can say
there's
shelving
wall
wall.
behind all of the black vinyl, there's a wall there before the shelf. So even if we took the shelf down, there's still a wall there.
Yes, I understand that. There's a half wall coming up, right?
Right,
Yeah.
And then the one that goes to the top has a wall the whole way to the top of the window, just to clarify it.
Probably can include shelving or wall.
if you all had pictures, not trying to tell you what to put on there, but if you had pictures of the animals, does it satisfy your goal that you asked from planning and zoning?
As far as, yeah, absolutely.
Do you have a desire to put those others, the other signs up?
Personally, no.
Personally good enough for me.
Corporately.
We can lose that part, that's no problem.
So then we would just be essentially talking about the parrot, the cat, the dog, and the grooming.
I'm not gonna tell them how to do their
But
job, but
they're gonna change.
we're just gonna
Obviously, it's-
celebrate the fact that we have that in common.
Well, at least that would make sense.
Right.
That would make sense.
And I second that motion.
I don't have a problem with that. You have a problem
All
with
right,
that?
Mr. Chairman, we're ready to raise our hand. Let you speak in the hall.
Oh, well, I just want to say one last thing. Why do we have to have grooming and grooming? We talked about this during the sign, when we talked about signs. See, they're gonna have this one up here already that says grooming. So now we gotta have another one in the window that says grooming. Why? Does that lean toward advertising?
I think it clarifies it in the sense that if it's an established graphic,
Okay.
are we really going to have code compliance go around and say, hey, you
Yeah.
put this word in there?
No. Okay.
Well,
I
as
think
long
established
as,
graphic is pretty easy to clarify.
Man, you guys had better be glad you're.
as long as you got it up at the top, why do you
Let's
need it
vote.
down?
Well, what I'm saying is that why have them redo their graphics?
That's what I'm
That's an
saying.
established graphic, they have it other
I'm fine
stores.
with it.
If it's established, they can, I think it makes sense.
Okay.
We're trying to cut and paste.
I'm trying to help you guys,
But it's a
because when you
PD.
become before council, this is a cakewalk
That's it.
compared.
Well,
That's
But-
right.
And that's another thing. What we vote on, there needs to be some clarity so council can digest it.
That's
And
true.
And understand what we really are saying and
Yes.
doing.
I
That
strongly
part makes
recommend
sense.
that you digitize some of these pictures on your building and have
Absolutely.
those
that would help
prepared for
if you
city.
can do
Absolutely.
it. Yeah.
And we'll have
It could be worth
That
it.
would have
areas
made
of
it
the
much
of the
easier.
actual wording, things like that. We'll make it,
Be a good
we'll make
idea.
it easier to digest.
Yes.
And I apologize, that wasn't done here, so
Counselor again.
lesson learned.
Yeah, lesson learned, because we probably
But
would be
what
done.
she's saying is that
Well,
we're,
see, right now, the way this is right now, that
Saying
it's
this is
hard to
graphic.
visualize all of that up there.
Sure.
this
you
is the
know.
graphics.
Can we get a real quick point of clarification? When we say that they're allowed to have the window graphics covering the rack, does the rack go all the way to the top of the wall, or does the wall go higher?
The shelving goes to the top of the wall. Basically, there's a wall built behind the shelving.
Okay, so,
to
but
block
where it
the-
ends, the wall ends too.
Right.
Okay, so we can have it in
Anywhere
there.
there's a black zone, there's a wall right there.
Right, but it doesn't extend above that. It's where that's at. Okay. We just wanted it so we can write it correctly in the ordinance. Okay.
Okay, but again, how far does the shelving go up?
Well, he just
With the
showed
black
you on the
film.
picture.
Right.
Right,
Where the
film is.
the black film is.
Yes. So basically, the black film is the height of the wall and the height of the shelving.
Oh,
That's
Okay.
their
Together, it's
bracket, so
they're
they
the
don't
same
have,
height.
yeah, separation from the
They're the
glass.
same height, same elevation.
I got that part.
You've got a motion and a second. You want to call for a vote?
Who seconded?
I did.
Okay. And John, you made the motion?
Yes, sir.
All right, any further discussion on this dilemma here? Anyone?
It's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Opportunity.
Right, there
That's
you
right.
go.
Thank you.
All right, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed?
You know.
Well, we
Thank you
got
for your
that
time.
part done.
Thanks, John. Thanks, guys.
When push comes to shove, you're there.
Yeah, council's gonna kill us.
Good night.
They can, you know what? They already.
We'll find out in a second. He should know
Didn't
that.
know we've been working on the side on this for the last 4 months.
I think you're right.
Okay, now what do we want to do?
Where are we?
Where are we at?
Okay, we're going on to agenda item number 10, Planning and Zoning Commission Rules of Procedure. 10A, consider the adoption of amended rules of procedure on the first of 2 readings. Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will attempt to say this in a way we can move through it quickly. You have in your packet a copy of your rules of procedure as they exist today. I trust you have taken a look at those and then compared them to the changes marked version. What we are asking you to adopt, well, before I get to that, the reason these are before you is you also serve as the advisory committee on impact fees, which has a fancy name that I can't recall right now. It's in the cover memo, but my memory slips right now. The statute requires City Council to adopt rules of procedure for you as the advisory committee. However, Council has allowed you to adopt rules of procedure as a Planning and Zoning Commission. The recommendation was to include the rules of procedure to be the same for both bodies and explain what the purpose of the advisory committee and what the functions of the advisory committee are. That has been captured in the proposed ordinance. The issue that I would ask you to change that was presented to you in the changes marked portion is under conduct of meetings, order of business, public comments. Since we really have never had a big issue with people coming before you and discussing things that are not within your jurisdiction, probably to include that limitation may be straining at gnats. And so I would like to quit straining at that gnat and remove that portion. Ask you to approve this updated revision, ease of understanding, ease of reading, ease of application, to, as set forth in the changes marked with the deletion of public comments on planning and zoning commission related matters.
Only.
Delete that phrase from it and adopt them as set forth. Of course, they will be printed in a clean version for you to see next time. We failed to include that in the packet, I do believe, and I apologize for that. But it will, after you look at it twice, it will then go to City Council for their approval.
So then, not item 5 stays, but you strike after the italicized public comments shall be limited?
Strike the italicized words.
Oh, just the italicized.
Just the italicized words.
Oh, okay. But we're going to leave the 3-minute.
That's been there before.
Which we, okay.
That has been in your rules as they exist today. So it's not a change.
Okay.
It's a reorganization and listing how we do the agenda.
Okay.
As opposed to just, you know, the sentence in the prose version that could leave you guessing how we're supposed to do it. I took lead from City Council and said, let's just list the items and how it happens in the agenda.
Okay.
Well, that makes sense. Okay, do I hear a motion?
Make a motion that we
approve this?
Approve it with the change to modification to the language as Gary stated. Is that good enough motion? You got that? Okay.
I second the motion.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on this item at all? Incidentally, Gary, good job with this.
If I may comment that the good job belongs to Ms. Ayamu, who did the work, reviewed them, put them together, and I only made minor comments, which we discussed, and she adopted some and corrected my misguided ways on others.
No one was here. I think it belongs to
Okay, any further discussion on this item at all? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, that is approved as presented. We do not have a closed executive session tonight. That's been pulled from the agenda.
Oh, let's have one.
Anybody else have anything else to say? Huh?
I felt so important when we went back there.
Well, I don't know. That's so good.
I thought, boy.
And guess what? It was all in secrecy, too. Yeah. All right, any further comments from anybody? We're adjourned.
Tossing papers around. I asked you that. Thank you. Good, yeah, we got my.
That's what you
Good job.
Did you say old?